I can't see a world in which I would be bringing my wife and children back to the UK at this point. And the things that they're going to miss is, well, everything. You know, I love my country. I always have done, despite what some people in that country have done. So, you know, I miss the UK. I miss parts of the UK. Of course I do. And I think that it's really quite sad that I won't be able to show, you know, my children my homeland. You know? And I think what really worries me more than anything else about today's decision, depending on, you know, what happens next, is that it's set a new precedent, that security can be used to control members of the family. And effectively what it does is imprison other members of the family from being able to, you know, choose a different life. You know, if for me, security is conditional on having an official role, one that both myself and my wife wished to carry on, but then was rejected, not by Ravek, was rejected by the royal household. And the result to that is you lose your security. That basically says that you can't live outside of their control, if you want to be safe.
Do you want the court battle to continue? Do you want to try to see this get to the Supreme Court?
I don't want any battles to continue. There is way too much suffering and way too much conflict in the world. This, at the heart of it, is a family dispute. And it makes me really, really sad that we're sitting here today, 5 years later, where a decision that was made, most likely, in fact, I know, to keep us under the roof. But then once they realized that that wasn't going to work, once they realized that, you know, myself, my wife, and our kids are happier outside of the institution, then please just look at the facts. Look at the risks, look at the threat, look at the impact that if anything was to happen to me, my wife, or my father's grandchildren, if anything was to happen to them, look where the responsibility lies. You know? So, you know, there's a duty of care that has been completely thrown out the window. And that doesn't feel great. So for me, having an official role was conditional on keeping security. But for everybody else, people who have chosen this life to enter into public office and then leave, get it for life, regardless of whether they have risk or threat to their name. And by the way, I agree with that. I think that is absolutely the right thing to do. That if you come in and you serve your country, even if it's a minimum of 4 years, that you get the protection that you require because of your public service. I was born into this position. It wasn't a choice. I've served my country for 35 years. I believe that I am still continuing to serve my country. Public service is my life. That is the dedication that will never change. And then all the other bits and pieces that are added to that. You know, there are very, very real threats that exist out there. Some that are known about, some that have been withheld. And for people in power and responsibility of decisions to know that those threats and risks exist, but to turn around and say, well, because you don't have an official role, your life doesn't actually matter anymore. Well, you can imagine how I feel about that, but you can also imagine, not even imagine, that is the most illogical argument in the history of arguments. At this point, I'm feeling very let down. You know, it's the minority of people, especially those that read the tabloids and the press themselves. The press themselves have incited so much hatred towards myself, my wife, and even our children, that's hard to forgive. I actually couldn't believe it. I thought with all the disagreements and all of the chaos that's happening, the one thing that I could rely on is my family keeping me safe. And not only did they decide to remove my security in the UK, but they also signaled to every single government around the world not to protect us. I would love reconciliation with my family.
Prince Harry has spoken from the heart, and behind the headlines and legal battles lies something so much deeper, something so human, a man torn between two worlds. In a candid and emotional interview, Prince Harry opened up about the pain of losing his latest legal challenge over his UK security, and the even deeper pain of what that decision means for his future, his children, and his connection to the place he still calls home. I can't see a world in which I would bring my wife and children back to the UK at this point. The weight of this statement is profound. It speaks volumes about the inner turmoil and the difficult choices Prince Harry faces as he navigates his responsibilities as a father and a husband, while also grappling with his ties to the country he once called home. That one sentence holds so much weight. This isn't just a statement about travel plans. This is a man confronting the fact that he may never be able to safely bring his children to the country he was born in, the country where he served in uniform, the country where his mother rests. It's heartbreaking, because for all the noise, all the scrutiny, all the judgment, Prince Harry's love for the UK has never changed. He said it clearly. I love my country, I always have. And we believe him. This is someone who gave 10 years to the British Army, who founded the Invictus Games for wounded veterans, who stood up for mental health and community causes across the UK. His commitment to the people and the country he grew up in has always been clear. But now, because of a decision rooted in bureaucracy and politics, his children may never get to experience that same connection. It's really quite sad that I won't be able to show my children my homeland. And you can hear the pain in his voice. Imagine that. Imagine loving your home so much, its traditions, its countryside, its people, but knowing that bringing your kids back puts them at risk. Because that's what this is really about. Not privilege, not royal status, but safety. Prince Harry didn't walk away from his duties lightly. He did it because he saw history repeating itself, because he remembered what happened to his mother when the world got too loud, too dangerous, and he made a choice, not just for himself, but for the family he is now responsible for. Prince Harry didn't walk away from his duties lightly. He did it because he saw history repeating itself, because he remembered what happened to his mother when the world got too loud, too dangerous, and he made a choice, not just for himself, but for the family he is now responsible for. Everybody knew they were putting us at risk in 2020, he said, speaking about the changes to his security, and they hoped that me knowing that risk would force us to come back. But when that didn't happen, he asked a simple question. Do you not want to keep us safe? Not an attack, not a demand, just a plea. From a son, from a father, from someone who still holds on to hope that, despite everything, love and reason will win. It's easy to forget the personal cost behind these legal battles. It's easy to look at the headlines and miss the human being underneath. Harry's not just fighting for security, he's fighting for peace of mind. He's fighting for the right to come home, not as a prince, but as a man, with a wife and children he wants to keep out of harm's way. And yet, despite all this, despite the hurt, the rejection, the silence, he still speaks of forgiveness. There have been so many disagreements between myself and some of my family, he said, but I've forgiven them. That takes courage. He went even further. I would love reconciliation with my family. There's no point continuing to fight anymore. Life is precious. How many people in his position would still hold out that kind of hope? But perhaps the most painful part is his relationship with the king, his father. The king won't speak to me because of this security stuff, he revealed. And then, in one of the most emotional moments of the interview, he said, I don't know how much longer my father has. It's the kind of truth that strips away all the royal protocols. At the end of the day, this is a son who wants to make peace with his dad, before it's too late. Prince Harry isn't asking for special treatment. He's not asking to be reinstated or crowned. He's simply asking for the safety and dignity to return home with his family, to walk through the streets of his country without fear, to let his children know where they come from. Prince Harry isn't asking for special treatment. He's not asking to be reinstated or crowned. He's simply asking for the safety and dignity to return home with his family, to walk through the streets of his country without fear, to let his children know where they come from. The court, of course, disagreed. The judges ruled that while his concerns were valid, they didn't meet the legal threshold to restore full protection. Harry called it what it felt like to him, a good old-fashioned establishment stitch-up. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. But what matters is how it made him feel. Isolated, let down, he was born into. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. But what matters is how it made him feel. Isolated, let down, left vulnerable by the very system he was born into. And yet still, he holds no grudge. Just sadness. And yet still, he holds no grudge. Just sadness. This, at the heart of it, is a family dispute, he said, and it makes me really, really sad that we're sitting here today, 5 years later. This, at the heart of it, is a family dispute, he said, and it makes me really, really sad that we're sitting here today, 5 years later. Sadness. That's the thread running through it all. Sadness. That's the thread running through it all. Not anger, not revenge, just a deep, quiet grief for the home he misses, for the country he loves, for the family he still hopes to reconnect with. Not anger, not revenge, just a deep, quiet grief for the home he misses, for the country he loves, for the family he still hopes to reconnect with. So when Prince Harry says he won't be appealing the court decision, when he says this is the end of the legal road, what he's really saying is, I've done all I can, now I just want peace. He's done fighting, he's choosing family, he's choosing healing, and we should all respect that. Because behind the titles, behind the palace walls, behind the global spotlight, there's a man who just wants to show his children where he came from, a man who still believes in home,